when we're in pursuit of presence and human connection, that means like we're connected to ourselves too. And I talk to so many people whose challenge and struggle in whatever it is they're doing in their life, right? And why do people want to reinvent? Why do people want to move? Why do people want coaching? Like, why does that happen? Well, because they want more presence. And when people are making those choices to move in those directions, sometimes it's moving away from other people and moving toward certain people and just trying to find those relationships in which you can be the most yourself. And that's hard for adults.
Welcome to the Driven Dad Podcast, where we celebrate dads that live with passion and lead with purpose. On this show, we'll host some dads that live incredible lives. Being a dad is the most important job you'll ever have. Get inspired by our amazing guest dads that refuse to live life in mediocrity and live epic lifestyles with their families. All right, guys. So today I'm sitting down with Natalie Davison, mother of teenage twins, keynote speaker, real estate leader, and a personal brand coach who knows what it means to reinvent yourself from the ground up. After losing a business that once defined her, she rebuilt her life from the inside out and now helps others do the same with truth, strategy, and soul. Natalie, welcome to the Driven Dad Podcast.
Thank you so much. What a great intro that I'm pretty sure I wrote, but I was like, what, did I write that? Where did you find that? That's good.
Well, in all honesty, you kind of probably wrote pieces of it and then ChatGPT really helped me out.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's even better. I was like, did I post that somewhere? Isn't that funny about ChatGPT though? Mm-hmm. Like, isn't it funny that I probably have a very similar intro that recently was produced and I don't really remember it because it wasn't like the old days where the words just came out of my soul.
Exactly.
I'm doing it. I'm in a season right now exploring my relationship to ChatGPT. That's why it's so interesting that we could be like, I'm like, oh, did I write that? And you're like, no, you didn't write that. I'm like, wow, these are the times we're in.
Yeah, I know. I have this massive love-hate relationship with ChatGPT or AI in general, where you can't argue how efficient it can make your life and your day-to-day stuff. It's a great tool, but it's also a frustrating tool, I think. On certain levels, like you build up these expectations once you start using it, and certain days it doesn't deliver in the way you want. And I think knowing more now, it's probably our fault because it's all about, being wise with your prompts and stuff like that.
100%.
But yeah, it's an interesting / scary time.
So like my epiphany this week on ChatGPT and in talking to a friend who like teaches AI, right? And she's encountered a complicated place now with the relationship to AI. And we were chatting about it and I was like, well, here's the thing. I believe we all just want to be more present. I actually think that's why everybody does what they do. We want to be more present so we can experience more human connection. And that's because we're wired to do that. And so whatever we do, like pursuing more money, pursuing more like notoriety, like being more famous, whatever those things are, we're doing that really as a means to an end of being more present. And I think AI has been one of those things where like, oh, this is going to help me. Like, I'm going to outsource this and I'm going to AI this and I'm going to automate this. And all of these things are going to get handled for me so I can be more present. And then now what we're learning as we're getting used to the tool is in many ways, it's making us less present. Mm. So for example, as a professional communicator, for me to be like, oh, did I write that bio? Did you write that bio? AI wrote that bio? That's crazy. Like 3 years ago, people paid me to write them a bio. Like I have that skill. Mm. And now we're sitting here having this conversation about neither of us did. Mm. Isn't that crazy?
It's mind blowing, honestly, right? When you think, and it's moving so fast that I think we're going to forget where we were just 6 months to a year ago. Mm-hmm. Because we're adapting to, what's going on in the AI world today, and it's changing. Like it's just going to keep going faster and faster, and we're going to forget where we were, really soon.
100%. And my my bio tells you what I do, right? And who I am is a person who is just like deeply, deeply curious about human behavior and always have been, like my entire life. And so when we look at things like AI or whatever the thing du jour is, I always really kind of want to tune into like, well, what are the humans doing and why are we doing this and what is our goal? And it's just really interesting to watch us navigate, like, if we really are all chasing human connection and being more present, well, is the tool actually doing that? Are we using it in a way that does that? Or are we getting further from it? And my experience lately has been that I've gotten further from being present. Like I've allowed AI to be my voice in certain situations, right? And I'll be honest, I see your show notes. I'm like, oh yeah, ChatGPT. Like, I mean, we know, like, you know what I mean? Like we know, and there's nothing wrong with it as long as we're managing it in a way where we're still really clear on what we actually want.
Yeah, 100%. I like the way you define like everyone is chasing the same thing, human connection. And what's hilarious is like whatever we're doing to chase that, whether, like you said, whether it's like financial gain or getting famous or whatever, we all get lost in that rat race and forget about the end goal.
Yes, like the pursuit of presence is actually sometimes what removes us from presence. Like trying so hard to pursue it and chase it. And like that's what I journaled on this morning. It's so weird we're talking about this, but journaled on it with no AI, like just a pen and a piece of paper.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Like read my book and then, wrote my thoughts and just take that time to really like check in with myself. But that was my journal this morning, was about presence and this idea that we all want to be more present. We all want to soak up everything we can in our moments. And at the same time, we want it so bad that we don't even realize that we've just kind of like sacrificed it, right? And I'm really feeling that. My kids are in grade 12 right now. So I'm really feeling that right now in their year of lasts. It's their last homecoming this Friday. They play football and they've played in that game for 4 years. And they've played at that field since they were in kindergarten, right? It's the last time, I mean, I don't know what the future holds, but it's like the last time. Like there's a lot of lasts right now. And so presence right now feels like it's so essential. The time window's short and it's just, I don't know, my moments are incredibly high value.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I was watching, I believe it was a podcast the other day, and they were talking about how challenging it is to make connections and more specifically make friends and staying connected with your friends when you become an adult. And they were describing how in high school and in university, those are the most connected days of your life because you are on the same schedule as the people around you. So you are connected by default, essentially, on a daily basis.
Yes.
The longest, break you get from them is summer vacation and, Christmas vacation and stuff like that. But by default, you are on the same schedule as those people for 13 years.
Yeah.
And then if you go to university, it even escalates because there's the social side that comes into effect where you do, go to the same courses or similar courses together. But at night, you're all, independent for the first time in your life. So everyone's like super pumped up about going out every night if you want to.
Yeah.
So you are even more connected with the people around you.
In discovery of yourself. Like, yes.
It's an exciting time, right?
Yeah.
Like we know it's an exciting time when we're there, but we don't know how valuable the connections are until you go out into the real world. And then at best, you see the people you work with on a regular basis. But what's unique is the people you end up working with are pretty unlikely to be the people that you want to be surrounded with on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're very intentional, like I know, like we are I would say more intentional than most people as far as our professional careers go.
Yeah.
And we intentionally surround ourselves with the people we want to be around with and do the things that we want to do. But I found it was very, I had like a deep reflection of like how true that was and how hard it is if you're not very intentional in your adult life to surround yourself. Like you have to take it upon yourself to put yourself in scenarios where the right crowds are on a regular basis. And even at that, it's easier said than done when kids come into the picture and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you find yourself, I think, with less volume of people. And then the people around you by default become the people, and they might not be the best people for you, right? So it's an interesting concept. Like when we're in pursuit of presence and human connection, that means like we're connected to ourselves too. And I talk to so many people whose challenge and struggle in whatever it is they're doing in their life, right? And why do people want to reinvent? Why do people want to move? Why do people want coaching? Like, why does that happen? Well, because they want more presence. And when people are making those choices to move in those directions, sometimes it's moving away from other people and moving toward certain people and just trying to find those relationships in which you can be the most yourself. And that's hard for adults. It's very hard for adults to say, I'm not in integrity with myself right now. This person's asking me to do this. This person wants this of me. This person's showing up for me in a way that doesn't feel good. And most adults just gaslight themselves into like, well, it's good enough. And that's a really important thing that I continue to work on and that I continue to try and be aware of myself is when I find those situations where I'm compromising my own integrity with myself. I'm not showing up for me the way I want to show up for me because somebody wants me to show up for them in a different way.
Yeah. I think we get into circles of people when we're adults just coincidentally, right? Like your kids play football. Well, you're going to hang out with the parents there.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, you didn't choose circle.
I picked the best three. Like they're my girls.
and I think that becomes your responsibility, right? Like you don't have to be an asshole about it.
Yeah.
You can say hi to every parent at the game.
Oh,
but
yeah, 100%.
You stick with the ones that, share some values, the same values as you. And you don't change yourself just to sit down next to the other parents, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's super important. And if you want to have relationships with the people who are the most present and connected to themselves, because those are the kind of people you want to be around, that they're the ones that are the most fulfilled and they're the kind of people that are going to spiral you up, then like they have a barometer for how connected you. So if you're full of, do we swear on this podcast?
Oh yeah, we can. Fucking right.
If you're full of shit, you're going to repel people who are not full of shit and vice versa, right? It's just, if you want to have real people in your life, you have to be real. Like it's just the way it works. It's science.
I love the phrase, your vibe attracts your tribe.
Yeah.
I often tell myself that, and I do some morning journaling also. And pretty much every day I write, bring the energy into every room that you walk into. And I mainly write that because that's who I want to be, but it's not natural. Like it's not easy every day, right?
Yeah.
I try to be that person because that's what I want people to bring into my life.
Of course. And it takes work. But you're a growth-minded person, so I assume that you're going to always have somewhere you want to go. Like I'm going to always have somewhere. I'm never going to be like, oh, I've learned all the lessons there are to learn in humanity. Like that's enough, check. I mean, I might want more rest. Like I don't know what that's going to look like, but I'm going to always be growth-minded. I'm always going to be on that journey. And I think that that's an energy in and of itself.
So before we go any further into any discussions, I want to raise a subject that you're the first mom on the Driven Dad podcast. And for our listeners and our viewers, the reason I invited you, Natalie, is number one, we have a bond. we're both twin parents.
Yes.
I think
yes.
it's like a private club.
We have survived something that people do not understand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're in like super different eras of parenthood. My
Yeah.
kids are just turned 6, and
Yes.
yours are
My kids just turned 17 and they're in grade 12.
okay.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, like this is a big year of lasts for you and for them.
Yes.
And they're big football players, both of them.
Yeah, they both play football. They play right next to each other, so they both play on the O-line, and one's a center and one's a guard. So when you watch video or see photos of plays, oftentimes they're working together because you have to work with the guy next to you sometimes to like team up on whatever, and that's been incredible. They're identical twins. Like, it's just been incredible.
Cool.
It's like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, just to watch them share this passion and love, and then to see it, it's not like they're doing it in silos. Like, they're a unit. Like, the O-line is a unit. The 5 guys on the O-line are a unit. But then those 2 are like a unit. It's really exceptional.
Have
Very
they always
special.
been like that in general, or
Yeah.
has football brought them like even closer together?
I mean, no, I wouldn't say that. Football's brought them closer together. They're very close. Identical twins are interesting, right? And like the fact that they were an egg that split into 2, like when you spend time with my kids, it is clear they were a person that became 2 people. Like it is clear that they were one person that became 2 people. One has entirely half of the personality and the other has entirely the other half of the personality. Like one is very deadline driven, serious, focused. Like the other one is the most laid back, lighthearted, easygoing guy around. Like, and most people you meet are kind of a half of each. Like it is wild, right? So we have so many moments along the way, from like when they were in the NICU. Jack came home a couple days before George. And the very first moment along the way where we felt their connection that was just wild was, so they were on when they're in the NICU, they don't just get held willy-nilly. You're on a 3-hour schedule. So every 3 hours, the baby gets woken up, fed, changed, put back to bed, and they sleep. NICU babies that are preemies sleep the whole time in between. There's no rocking them. There's no hanging out and playing. Like that's the regime, right? And so they had been in the NICU for a month. So for a month, they had learned the schedule of we do not wake up between these 3 hours. Like we just don't. So it was our first night home with Jack. George was still in the NICU. We brought Jack home. They were on I still remember 3 a.m., 6 a.m., 9 a.m. And at 4:30 a.m., exactly between 3 and 6, Jack screams out in the night. Like super weird, because for the whole month of his life, he was trained to not do this, right? And so we were like, wow, that's bizarre. So we get up in the morning. We're going to go see George. I call in just to check on him. And the nurse is like, oh, I had a good night. But the strangest thing, at 4:30 in the morning, he just screamed out of nowhere.
Wow.
And like, Matt, I could tell you 10 stories like that.
Crazy.
Where people, teachers, like they're in different classes, they can write about anything and they write about the exact same moment. Like things like that have gone on their whole lives where they, I believe, experience a kind of human connection that we can't understand. And at this, as non-twins. And then at the same time, I think sometimes they look at us and like, we have an amazing relationship, but like, I'm never going to get them the way their brother gets them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Must be so special to have that connection, like you explained.
Yeah. And it's just what they know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So they don't articulate that it's special, but I see it, and it is like, we're hoping they go to the same school next year, and we don't talk a lot about what would happen if they don't, but they're really hoping that they have the same opportunities available. So it makes sense for them to go together because they don't want to go
right
to different schools right now.
Right.
And when they were younger, there was a lot of pressure to separate them, make sure they got their own identity. Like that was the advice du jour, and might be still the advice. I don't look that stuff up anymore because I tried really hard to be the best mom I could be and followed all the advice, and it was super wrong for us.
Mm.
It was like I separated them at school, and it was not the right choice. Like there's a few things along the way where I was really trying to be by the book and do the best thing that I could as a mom. And I look back and I'm like, man, I wish I had the confidence to trust my intuition and gut back then.
That's interesting because I feel like this day and age, like the modern parents,
Yeah.
do everything by the book, whichever book you decide to follow.
Yeah.
But your intuition and like what's right for your family, your kids, yourself, your lifestyle is important to pay attention to as much as the education you learn, right?
Or more. Like my grandmother had a book. When I had my kids, my grandmother was like, oh, well, my book was this. And I'm like, well, all that stuff in your book is what my book says was wrong, right? And I'm pretty sure like my book now, everybody would tell you is wrong. Like, I mean, like every generation has a book. And we disprove that generation with a book. So here's what I think kids need. They need parents who have the most regulated nervous systems possible. And if that means that you can nurse your baby and your nervous system's regulated and things are calm and safe feeling in the home, then do that. And if you can't and you have to feed them formula, then do that. And if your nervous system's going to be regulated when your twins are together, then keep them together. Like, I wish I had that advice back then because I was like pretty stressed out for a long, long time. And none of it mattered. All the things I tried to do right and by the book, like I wouldn't do again.
That's good advice. I hope a lot of parents take that to heart in general, right? It's not a twin thing. It's just like a parenting thing.
100%. Your kids they want to be regulated. They want to be present. They want peace. You want those things. Like, and you know what makes you feel good. Like if you might forget, you might be out of touch, but if you slow down and tune in and be like, what actually makes me feel good? And you let yourself do it instead of taking advice from a stranger whose book's going to be outdated in 5 years, then everybody wins, right? Like cortisol comes down, we get human connection. You can't really do parenting wrong if you can prioritize love and connection and presence. And I think that that's what we mess up. Like some of my favorite parenting advice I was listening to We Can Do Hard Things, which is Glennon and Abby's podcast. And they had an author that I can't remember because I didn't know I was going to talk about this, so I'm sorry. But she was a parenting expert, and she was talking about how relationships are built in the repair. It doesn't matter if you screw up. It matters how you handle things when you do screw up. So relationship depth, and that's like adults or kids or whatever, is not like, oh, you know what, I got mad and I yelled at you. Like, yeah, I don't want to yell at my kids, but like sometimes I have yelled at my kids, trust me. And when they were younger, I would get frustrated and do that even more. But what matters is the repair. The connection happens, the safety happens, and what happens afterward. And so if you handle the repair well, then their nervous system can regulate and they can move on and you guys can build from there. And so it's always in the showing up, taking responsibility, apologizing when you're wrong, things that maybe like older generations couldn't imagine. That's what I continue to strive to do as a parent. And I think we're there. Like, I think my kids know they can tell me anything. And
that might be the most valuable thing you can earn as a parent. That just your kids know that they can go and talk to you. And it doesn't matter if they screwed up or what happened.
Yeah.
They know that, they can lay it on the line and figure out a solution with you afterwards.
And I think we're there, but I guess you never really know. But like, I think we're there. And I think what I'm the most proud of is that my kids know that they can also say to me, hey, like what you said didn't make me feel good. And that they know that I will be like, oh, I'm really sorry. And I don't know. I have a good friend who's, has a mom that they have a complicated history, but that mom apologized. And the relationship, it's the most beautiful thing. And she comes from a generation where parents didn't apologize, right? And so this lady I think is just such a leader for me as a mother, because I can see what that did. Like, it doesn't matter what happened. It matters what's the presence in the moment, in today. She's sorry. Her child feels seen and acknowledged and hopeful, and they build a beautiful future. And like, I don't know, what else could you want?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think this conversation kind of trickles into, like the modern day parent wanting to give their kids like all the opportunities possible and like literally give them everything that they can possibly think of. And I think the correct thing, in my opinion, is the exact opposite, and like give them less things, activities, opportunities, and give them more of you just listening.
Yeah.
Like opportunities to be present with them.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of the modern day stuff like is time taken away between the parent and the kid, because it's like playing hockey 300 days of the year.
Yeah.
Like you just drive them to the games. It's not like true bonding time, right?
Which comes back to presence again, though, right? Like, I think, okay, so some other great parenting advice that I'm going to butcher, because I'm coming on a parenting podcast and don't think about who, whatever. But somebody said something to Celine Dion once about her kids being spoiled because they have everything. And she was like, those aren't the same thing. These are not the same thing. She's like, yeah, my kids do have a lot. They do have a lot. Like, absolutely. But they're not spoiled. And I was like, whoa, thank you for that. Because again, it's like, I don't know, we know all kinds of people. And I don't think withholding from your kids or giving to your kids, either way, personally, right, makes them a good person or a bad person, And I just don't. I think presence matters. So if you're giving them stuff to replace having to be vulnerable, look them in the eye and have a real relationship, then that's going to be problematic. And by the same token, I know kids who they carry a lot of workload at home. They have to pay bills. They have to help pay bills. They have a lot of responsibility, and that doesn't make them good or bad either, or that doesn't make their parent good or bad either. But if that is also replacing presence, and we know those people, we know people who have had to become the parent, and they certainly get all those life lessons about hard work, and that's cool. But did they get the connection? So it's like, to me, it's not about like, I don't know, I'm not a big one on like, oh, give the chore chart, or like, don't give the chore chart, or give them money or don't give them, like, give them gifts or don't. Like, I'm not really big on those kinds of rules. Again, it's like, whatever, do you. But the question is, like, are you looking in their eyes? Are you able to hear and say hard things? Are you able to be humble enough to make them understand that they're important? And if none of that's happening, I don't think it matters if they have stuff or they don't have stuff, or, you're paying thousands of dollars for elite hockey or not. Like, it comes down to you.
True. I 100% agree. I love that. It's a great point of view. Thanks. So moving on to my second reason, I guess, for having you on the show.
Oh yeah.
So we've been in the kind of entrepreneur community of the Greater Moncton area for, I don't know, you've probably longer than me.
Forever.
But yeah.
Feels like forever.
It's been like probably 15 years or so for me, and I've known you probably around that kind of same period.
Yeah.
Probably through Dan back in the day.
Yeah.
So our entrepreneurial journeys kind of linked us up together back in the day. And I know a little bit about your past ventures just from the surface, but I'm really excited to kind of dig in deep and for you to tell us the whole story about your past business and what you're doing right now today.
Sure. So, I'll be honest. I never thought I'd be an entrepreneur. Like, that the thought would give me the ick. I was very focused on stability And, I grew up in a time where entrepreneurship was not glorified. It was not something that I hate to say this, but like, you didn't, even now, my kids, I have a son in the Idea Center. It's an entrepreneurial incubator that the high schools have. And my other son he's doing co-op ed with us. So he's doing, they're entrepreneurial. They had businesses when they were little. That did not exist when I grew up in the 80s and early 90s. And I had good marks. So kids like me became doctors and lawyers, period. End of story. Like, that's what you did. And so that's the path I was on. And I had a really very, intense focus on stability. Like, I really wanted stability. So when I got out of university, and we lived in Toronto, and I got a stable job, and I was, employed, chasing stability, I still got my real estate license on the side when I was like 23 in Toronto. And I was just selling houses as a side hustle, and did not yet even have an inkling that I would ever do this full time, because I didn't value that. I valued stability, right? Like, it was, my mindset couldn't have been more different than it is right now. And so I had this side, like 20 years ago, I had this side hustle, just, selling my friends' houses on the side for like extra cash kind of thing, right? Which is like crazy in hindsight. And then we had the boys, and I wanted to move back home. And so my husband had become a full-time realtor. That was as wild as things were going to go. I was still going to be part-time, side hustle, have a stable job. That's what we were going to do. And we moved home because I wanted to raise the kids here. And I got an opportunity to work full-time in a stable job at Martel Home Builders. And that scared me, because I was like, I don't think working for an entrepreneur is a stable enough. Like, working for an entrepreneur. Okay. Like this, I was like, I don't think so. And craziest story, before I took the job, I made my husband go undercover, and Pierre, who was the owner of the company, was doing a speaking gig in St. John, talking about like building brand and whatever. This was like in 2011, and it was at like 8:39 in the morning. And so my husband got up at like 6 o'clock, got in the car, like middle of February, drove to St. John to go undercover to listen to this talk, because I was like, we need to figure out if this guy's legit. What if he's crazy? It's one person. My whole life is in the hands of one person. I don't know that I'm willing to be that risky. Like, that's where we were at, right? That was my starting point. And I worked there for 4.5 years. I did sales and marketing. We did really cool stuff. Like, and Pierre was like, you got to learn digital marketing, because, we're children. We were children. We were literally children in our 20s. And so off we went. And he sent me to conferences and all kinds of stuff, invested in me in a big way. And I'm growth minded. So that was amazing. And then after 4 years, my job was eliminated, and they took kind of a change of direction in the company, which is like obviously worked out well for Pierre. But I was going through a really big challenge with one of my sons at the time. And I needed like a certain level of flexibility to be able to be there for him. So he was in grade 1. And he had big anxiety, and his big anxiety would, if it would erupt, it would manifest in, like scary ways. Like, he was the kind of kid that they would clear a classroom because he had an episode. He had a behavior plan when he was 5 at the school. It was safety plan, it was called. And step 5 was they would call the RCMP. And so step 3 was they would call me. And when you have a 5-year-old, that there's a documented government document that says step 5, we call the police on the 5-year-old, you're never missing step 3. So I had that kind of flexibility working at Martel. And when my job was eliminated, I was like, well, I can't miss step 3 ever. I never will. And so first I just didn't work for a while. I just focused on my son and went all in on him. And I took courses. I mean, I went all in on like, how do I help this kid? And it was like a year-long learning. I call it Nat leave. It was like a year-long learning. And when I say to you now that like I'm an expert in reinvention and human behavior, this was a major chunk. Like a major chunk was this all-in immersive. I need to figure out how people work because I know I have a really good boy. And something's not working in the way that he's interacting with other humans. And it wasn't all humans. He didn't do this at home. Like he didn't do this in any other environment than a very specific situation at school with very specific adults around. And so I was like, what is going on? Right. So I'm like, you ask me for a long story, you get one. So then, here I was and I was like, okay, well, we got that under control and my son started doing a lot better. And I felt like, okay, like I still need to be able to be for step 3. I have to be able to get to the school. But at the same time, like I don't feel like I'm a stay-at-home mom either, right? So what do I do with all of this? And I just kind of started getting creative. And I went on a job interview, and the man that interviewed me was like, it was a job interview for not marketing. It was a different job. And the CEO of the organization interviewed me, and he goes, okay, I'm going to be honest. You're only here as a formality. I already have somebody for the job. That was like amazing. And he goes,
that makes me feel really
yeah,
great.
I was like, cool. And he's like, but I have never heard anybody talk about marketing like you have. Never. He's like, there's something here that's like very different. And he's like, I don't even have a marketing job for you, but I want to go back to my board and pitch them. And I want you to come run our marketing. And I was like, oh, me? Right. And so, so he did and came back to me with a job offer. And I was like, I couldn't see where I could get to step 3 with this company. So I said, I have another idea. I'm like, what if we do a contract? Like, what if I'm an independent contractor and I work for you this many hours and we do this scope of work and then maybe I get another client or 2. And I'd like done the math in my head and I was like, okay, I need like 3 clients. I can replace my old salary, whatever. And he was like, I'll take anything you'll give me. Like it was the response to what he felt I could bring to the table as a marketer blown my mind, right? And it really put into perspective, like I took marketing in school, but like I went to university before there was Facebook. Like the world was different. And so really put into perspective what I had learned and self-taught at Martel and learned from being aligned with Pierre and Dan and whatever. And so then now I was in this position where I was in a bubble there and now I'm in the real world. And anytime I open my mouth and talk about marketing, people are losing their minds, right? I'm like, oh, like what's going on? So I'm guess such a long story. So from there, I started picking up clients, and then I had more clients than I needed. And so I had a friend that was kind of trying to find her way, really strong at organizational skills and strategy and just very different skill set than mine, my friend Kira. And so I asked her if she felt that she was an integrator to my visionary. And she read this book. So I gave her this book, Rocket Fuel. She read it in like 2 days. She comes busting into my house and she's like, oh my God, I've never felt so seen. And I was like, okay, well, let's start this business. And so we started Marrow, which was a marketing agency, consultancy. We did speaking workshops, all kinds of stuff like that, marketing education. And then that was the next part of the journey until COVID.
So that was the breaking point for that business.
Well, it was, but it wasn't like most people's COVID story. Like most people's COVID story is, oh, my clients dried up or funding dried up or whatever. That wasn't us. Like COVID hit and our clients needed us more. They were like, what do we say? How do we say it? Like, how are we going to survive? How do we pivot? Our clients, we were slammed. And, but what happened was people got clear. Like people started to really understand what they wanted and didn't want in life. And what Kira came to terms with was like, after 4 years of running the business, she didn't want this. And so we didn't die by COVID in the sense that our clients dried up. Kira had clarity that this wasn't what she wanted. And so she told me she wanted to go. And then I had to learn about all my abandonment issues, go to some therapy, and and none of that about Kira. I'm so happy for her. It was the thing that had to happen, but that was hard. It was heartbreak. It was absolute heartbreak for me. And
so if that wasn't the case, you would have kept going with Marrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I also didn't want to do it without her, which is like, that was a whole other lesson in therapy, where it's like, well, why did you build a business that you don't want to keep without, like, anyway, a lot of that. Right. So she, she was just like, you know what, I want to move back home. I miss my family. So like not being able to cross the bridge, like not being allowed to cross the bridge because of interprovincial restrictions, like things like that, like they were very hard. And it brought into perspective, like, what does she want her future to look like, and all of those things. And I just wasn't in it. So, so it was really heartbreaking. It was really hard. I don't think it was easy for her at all. Like we did a podcast interview last year talking about it. And, she said, like, for her, the hardest part was she knew what it was going to do to me. And I love her very much for that and appreciate that. And it was not easy. So, so when she told me that, I was like, well, I've got this one thing in my back pocket that I don't know what's going to happen right now, but I'm just going to get my real estate license real quick. Cause it was like, I'd been a realtor for so long. I've sold thousands of houses, right? Whether it was at Martel Homes or back in Toronto or whatever. So I just knew it. My husband's been in real estate the whole time, and he was managing at this point, so couldn't really sell houses anymore. And I was just like, I'm just getting my license. I know, like, my dad's selling a house. My grandparents might sell their house. Like, I had 3 or 4 family members who were going to sell that year. I'm like, I'm just going to get my license, fly under the radar, not really tell anybody, sell a few houses, and then figure out what I'm going to do. And that didn't happen. I got my license 6 weeks in. I was like jammed and needed an assistant, and blew the doors off my first year back because of the brand equity I'd built in the community. And so then I was like, okay, wait, how do I bring all these worlds together? How do I bring Marrow, like what I did at Marrow that I loved, and real estate, and what part of real estate I love, and how do I bring it all together? And that's been the journey for the last few years that I feel like in the last 18 months I have nailed and locked in.
And now you've built a team, correct?
Yeah, I have a local team. And then I also have an organization. We call it an organization because I work for a brokerage called EXP, where you can build out a group basically that is anywhere in the world. And so I have realtors in Ontario, PEI, New Brunswick. There's 19, and one in South Carolina. There's 19, and those realtors work kind of under me at EXP. And so basically I coach, train, like uplift, support those realtors in their growth journeys as well. And so that has been really cool, like really, really cool. So it's a lot of the work I was doing at Marrow is come alive in that. My local team, their function is to help sell houses and buy houses in Greater Moncton, right? So I give them leads and whatever, but they're part of my bigger organization and have access to all the coaching, mentoring, training that I provide. But their function is a little bit more, it's more intimate. They're really like my limbs. Yeah.
Very cool. And is that a part of, I know you own this brand, if you will, called Known. Yeah. Is that part of that, or is that a separate thing?
That's a great question. So Known is like my soul work. It's I have a coaching program called Known the Membership, and I give it to anybody that's in my program, right? So any of my realtors have access to it, but I also, you can buy membership. So I have people from across all industries, and it's a weekly coaching program where we work on becoming more visible and whatever that looks like. So sometimes that's mindset, sometimes that's like learning Instagram, whatever the theme of the month is. And this month it's about being the brand, and the idea that your brand's not what you say, it's what you do. It's how you actually show up. It's not, you can be like, oh, like I'm this. Well, if you don't actually show up that way, people just think you're a liar. So this month's about being the brand. That's what we're working on this month, but that's what known is. And so you get access to that if you work with me as a realtor.
Cool. Yeah. I love that. Personal brand building stuff is like I love it.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yes. And really like my work in brand, and this is everything at Miro, came from surrounded this concept of brand integrity. And I call brand integrity the extent to which you are who you say you are. So there's two components there, like who you are and who you say you are. Now, most people want to say that they're these things, and then you show up and you notice these things. And if those things are not aligned, so if you say you're this, but you're that, then you're out of integrity. And the only thing that happens is you lose trust. And people, if you don't have trust with your brand, there's like literally no function. If your brand is eroding trust, it's a liability, not an asset. So your brand becomes more valuable if what you say reflects what people experience. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah. So I'm pretty chill on this podcast today, but generally very high energy. So it would make no sense if I started producing a brand that was like, super zen and like, you know what I mean? Very thin fonts and like trying to make people feel like, oh, I'm the soothing like presence. I'm not really. I'm not really a soothing presence. I don't think I'm a lot of other things that are cool that I need to say. But if I said that, people just wouldn't trust me.
So what would be like your best advice for someone, whether it's like just personal or business, to keep that guiding light on who you are and to have like a principle, like when you make decisions in your life, like you go back to this principle or this guiding light and you can make a clear and concise decision based on, the core of who you are.
I love it. I think everybody should have a vision statement. And a vision is, okay, so first of all, vision statements are so cheesy in the application. So just like caveat, if you heard me say vision statement and want to tune into the podcast, come back because I'm not going to talk about it the way everybody else does. Here's what a vision is. A vision is a picture of the world you're creating. It doesn't exist today. That's it. So I know and have known for like 8 years that my vision for my life is that I create a world where more people feel seen, heard, and valued. That means the amount of people that feel seen, heard, and valued today grows. Like that's important to me, right? So that means that people who haven't been traditionally seen, heard, and valued, hopefully I can share a light on them. Like people who maybe come from marginalized communities, hopefully I can bring along with me. Like it's really important that in every interaction, people feel seen, heard, and valued. So how does that come up in my daily life? So for example, I had a call with a real estate client this morning before this, and he was like, what should I do? And I was like, well, I'm never going to tell you what to do. I've presented you the data. What do you think? And people want me to tell them the answer a lot. And it's not just in real estate, it's in coaching, it's in everything. People want me to be like, this is what you should do. I will not tell you what to do. Sometimes I'll tell you what I would do based on my situation. But what I know for sure, Matt, is that we never have all the information from people. I joke with my team. It's going to sound harsh, but I'm like, listen, people lie. Assume everybody's lying at all times, and it doesn't make them bad. Sometimes people are lying to themselves. They don't even know they're lying to you. So let's just assume that everybody is giving us partial information and we don't have enough information to constantly be right. What does that mean? That means we can create a world where they are more seen, heard, and valued. They can start to use their own voice. They can start to go inside. So it looks like that in my real estate business, in my coaching business, same thing, is just constantly going back and really requiring people to find their own answers.
I love that. One last subject that I want to talk to you about is your fitness journey that you've had a shift in the last few years, I believe.
Yeah.
What sparked that shift for you, and like, what have you been doing for your fitness? I want to
Awesome.
know.
Thanks for asking. So, yeah, I lost 60 pounds in 2022.
Wow, that's amazing. 60 pounds. That's no joke. That's a big accomplishment.
Like I've lost big chunks of weight and put it back on
Okay.
over like the years. I've done that, and but this one was different, and this is the biggest amount of weight I've ever lost. So I'll be honest, like after Kira left, and then real estate exploded, right? Like, and like my income, like everything exploded. My whole life was different, and I'm standing there, and I'm like, I don't really know who I am. I'm leveling up for sure. Like I am for sure I'm leveling up, but it almost felt like I was on a roller coaster that was going rather than in the driver's seat, right? It just happened to be going in a positive direction. But like, but I didn't feel like it was my journey necessarily. Like I was just kind of a participant, like if you can imagine. And then when you change so much, everything changes. So I had people close to me that were really important relationships leave, and things kind of falling apart because I was different, but I wasn't necessarily different for the wrong reasons. And I was going to therapy and all this stuff, right? And starting to like stand up for myself in places I hadn't. And just like, it was just really hard. Like, I just can't even explain it. Like life just was really, really hard. And it was also simultaneously good and like painful. Like it was all of the things. And I'm just standing there in constant anxiety. And so what I did was I literally put in my calendar, like the only thing I had figured out to relieve anxiety is I went for like a run one day, and I hadn't been running. I needed to move my body in such a way that like I could just not think about everything. And so I go for this run, and then I feel better at the end of the run. And so then I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to do that again. And then finally I was like, okay, I felt better like a few times now. So then what I'm going to do is put this in my calendar every day, pick the kids up at school at 4. So I'm going to put my calendar that I leave the office at 2:30, and I'm going to run before I pick the kids up every single day so that I can feel the mental release. Like this had nothing to do with I want to be skinny. First time in my life. It had nothing to do with how I looked.
I want every parent to rewind the last 60 seconds of this and understand that you did it for the right reasons. It made you feel good every time mentally.
100%.
It increased your mental health probably 100 times. And the last thing that I love as far as like being effective is you put it in your calendar.
Yeah. All of the above.
Yeah.
Like it was, and at the time, Matt, like, I know it's so hard for people to be consistent when the stakes are low. But for me, I was struggling so much that the stakes were high. It was the only time I felt like was after I worked out. It was the minute, like 10 minutes of the day where I could just feel a little bit better. And now that's only went on for a few months, but like it was hard. And so when I was going through this hard time of like figuring out who I am and is this okay? And like, listen, we all think, oh, I'm going to have more success and I'm going to feel great. Like, no, if you have to burn your whole identity down and your relationships and whatever to be the best version of yourself, it's not going to feel great. It feels like really crazy. And so as I'm going through that, I just needed this daily, like, was it healthy? I don't even know that it was super healthy at the time. Like I went to see naturopathic therapists to help me with some other stuff I had going on. I also had been diagnosed with an autoimmune condition that was like pretty serious because I was just so stressed out. And so I had all this stuff going on with my health and whatever. And I go see a naturopathic therapist like a few months into it. And I had lost a bunch of weight. And she's like, what are you eating? I'm like, well, I'm eating like one time a day. Like, like it wasn't, and I would run into people and they'd be like, oh my God, you look amazing. What are you doing? I'm like, we can't talk about it. Because they wanted me to give them a diet. Mm-hmm. They wanted me to be like, go on this program. I'm like, no, like I'm not good. I'll tell you later. But like right now, like I'm actually in survival. And I don't want to tell you this is a good idea. It's not. I'm in survival. I am running for my life. Like that's how I feel. And so then I started doing some healing. And I think what's really crazy about humans and life is that, we're all walking around with trauma and pain. I don't care if you had the best life ever. Like, we all have stuff that we're carrying around that we would be better if we faced and healed. And we don't even know it's there half the time, but it informs how we react to things and how we behave. And so I was in this kind of like situation where I had to face a lot of pain to be and acknowledge that it existed to be able to heal it. And you can't heal pain you don't admit is there. And so then I moved into kind of a season of more healing where I could eat again and, I didn't have to run, right? Like, it wasn't like I need this relief. Like, it was much more of a, like, it started to grow into a really loving relationship. Now, it was never about punishing myself. And I think a lot of people exercise is about punishing themselves. It was never about punishing myself. It still had a productive, like, outcome, but it became a lot less dire and a lot more pleasurable as I started to heal what was going on in my soul and get over some of the things. Like I said, I had my abandonment issues and that kind of stuff, and started working through a lot of that and some spiritual stuff. And as that got better, then my relationship with exercise got really great. And it started to really flourish and, is something that I now think is an act of love. And when I move my body every day, it's like I'm literally experiencing joy, and I am so grateful, and it's a really beautiful relationship now. It was never that for me. I was like an athlete growing up. Playing sports was kind of like that, but just working out by myself was never really that. It was like, how am I going to look? And then it was this relief thing, and now it's this really great part of my life.
Amazing. I love to hear that journey. Exercise for me, or generally your health and fitness, that's like the foundation to everything else.
Yes.
Business, family, loving yourself and being happy. Like, everything snowballs after that. If you can get that in order, everything else gets better after that.
100%. And for me, like, my autoimmune condition, I mean, like, and this is kind of crazy stuff, but I don't know if you follow Dr. Gabor Mate much, but he's an expert on trauma. And he's a really interesting, he's a medical doctor, but he believes that in Western medicine, we're missing some things, and we're missing spirituality. We're missing connection to oneself. We're missing some things like that. And so as I'm on this journey, and I know I have some things I need to heal. Like, I'm aware of that because I'm now in this treadmill of I have to run every day to like be okay, right? So like, well, that's not a sustainable state for like I'm eating one time a day. Like, that's not a sustainable long-term way to live your life. And so I was aware of that, and I came across his work because I had been diagnosed with this condition, and he talks a lot about how so many autoimmune conditions that we face in North America are actually the result of high cortisol and stress in the body. And, I was listening to this podcast that he did, and he said, think about the most overprescribed drug in North America. He's like, what do we do? How do we treat autoimmune conditions? Cortisol. What do you do if you have a rash on your body? You put a steroid cream, cortisol. Like, he's like, what do you do if you have arthritis in your knee? You get a cortisol shot. And he's like, if cortisol is what we use to treat these conditions, why are we not considering that it might be the cause of some of these conditions? And my like head exploded. Not really. And I was like, whoa. And 3 months later, I went back to a specialist, and there's no evidence I ever had the condition I was diagnosed with.
Wow.
It was wild. It was wild, because I then moved into this season of healing. And so I was no longer kind of running for survival. And I would run, but I would walk more, and I would do other things. And I'd really moved into this season of like loving myself. And I had eczema my whole life. It disappeared my whole life. Like, it was just wild what I watched happen to my physical health when I started to learn what would happen if I would heal some of the stuff that I was still battling inside.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
I love the story. That's cool. That's cool. I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
So having your boys watch you rise and fall and rise again, what do you hope that Jack and George learn or see from watching you go through that journey?
Well, I hope that my kids see that I am flawed and knew that early. I think they knew it early. I think I was like honest about it early. I think one of the things that's so strange is we act like our parents are perfect when we're kids, right? We think that they're the model of perfection, and then we measure ourselves against whatever. So like, why did I chase stability so much, right? Like, well, I was my grandparents I was very close to, but like really high priority for my grandmother, like, which makes sense when her generation and her background. And so like, to me, like, she had the rules, and newsflash, we don't have the rules. Like, I don't have the answers. Like, the way I live my life might not be the best way. And I think my kids know that. I think my kids know that they're supposed to be curious and they're supposed to screw up and learn and try again, because nobody has the rules. And if that's what I taught them in rising and falling and all of those things, then I'd be really happy.
Amazing answer.
Thank
I really
you.
love it.
Thank you.
Well, Natalie, thanks for being the first mom on the Driven Dad Show. Really appreciated your mom perspective on everything we talked about, and thank you for being an inspiring person and an inspiring mom for all the other moms out there, and for the dads too. You inspire me. So
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you for having me. This was awesome.
it was all my pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Okay.